And one of the last dives, I had a panic attack at around 17 meters below. That this incident was actually quite a crucial tipping point for me today to say, hey, it's nice that you want to achieve it, but when you look back over those past few years, what have you actually achieved, what you wanted to achieve? I have actually achieved nothing. And that was actually the tipping point for me to say, I need to do something. And if you look at the whole structure of how people are progressing and regressing, you will see that there's a lot of focus on that part. But it's not what makes the success. People think that this is what I want to achieve, I'm going for it. But the goal is actually not important. It's the way how to go to that goal is actually important.
Niels Steeman, health, fitness, and life coach. A former senior executive in the travel and tourist industry turned health and wellness expert. Throughout his transformative journey, he has gained an extensive amount of knowledge that has led him to providing sustainable success stories for many of his clients using the Thrive approach. A fully licensed health coach, Niels is also a certified precision nutrition coach and a certified NASM CPT personal trainer. In this podcast, we sit with Niels and discuss his journey into health and wellness. We talk about productivity, the importance of sleep, counting calories, and finding a consistent and sustainable way to take the next step to living a healthy and better life. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Niels Steeman. Over 75% of the people watching this video are not subscribed. Could you please take a moment to subscribe to the Thaiger podcast? It would really help us out. Niels, you are a senior executive in travel and the tourist industry, an experienced veteran, let's say, and you left that all behind for health and wellness.
That's correct.
At what moment in your life did you decide to do that? What was the major turning point?
It's a very good question. When I look back at my whole story and my whole career and my real passion to grow into the tourism and tourism, travel and tourism industry, it was never on my mind that health and well-being was actually a part of gaining that momentum in order to achieve that growth, a really corporate growth. I was actually very much a career-driven person. I wanted to get higher and higher. I really wanted to ensure that my business card was upgraded on a regular basis. That was that feeling of thriving for me. Now, at a certain moment, probably around 15 years into my career, and that's already starting from 1998 onward, I started to feel not really 100% anymore. I was not on top of my game. And my first belief was, I'm sick. There is something wrong with me.
Okay.
And through various medical treatments and alternative medications, including acupuncture, various hypnotherapists, it did not get where I wanted to go. And I started to slack. And not only that, I also felt that I was not myself anymore. I became very arrogant, also in the way that I was dealing with my business, and I'm very open about this. And when you look back at certain aspects of your life, then you start to see that, why am I not the same person anymore as I used to be? And it came very clear that those working hours, because I was actually working like a 7-Eleven sometimes, I was open 24 hours in the broader sense of the word, right? That your desire, your drive to exceed to a certain goal may be one thing, but if your body and your mind are not onto it, that goal will never be reached. Mm-hmm. And a couple of years ago, I think it was around 2017, there was a time for me that I needed a break. I really wanted to get out of this whole feeling that I was not feeling well. And I was a passionate scuba diver. And a good friend of mine who is an instructor, he said, let's go out and we go a few scuba dives together. Everything went well, went through beautiful dives in PP Islands. And one of the last dives, I panicked. I had a panic attack at around 17 meters below the surface.
Okay.
Um, Thanks to his adequate work and his skills as a certified scuba instructor, he saved my life. And that was actually the turning point for me. So by that time in 2018, I started to realize that everything what I've accumulated over those 20 years of travel hospitality was actually now actually the final drip that overflowed the proverbial bucket. And I realized that was not the way that I wanted to live, because I also knew that this incident was actually quite a crucial tipping point for me today to say, hey, it's nice that you want to achieve it, but when you look back over those past few years, what have you actually achieved, what you wanted to achieve? I have actually achieved nothing. And that was actually the tipping point for me to say, I need to do something.
Was there something in your personal health that also motivated you to do that? I know you told me that I would be shocked if I had met you earlier in my life because you looked very different to what you do now.
That's correct. At the time that I started to change, I was 145 kilos.
Okay.
And that came from all aspects of what we call holistic health. It's not only your eating, it's not only your movement, it's not only all those other things which accumulated over there. You wouldn't have recognized me at all. Not as a person. Of course, physically I've changed dramatically. I lost 40 kilos in 10 months. But also my mindset has changed. Living with anxiety, depression has been dominating my life without even realizing that I actually had it. And it's because it just gradually accumulated. It was one step at a time, 1%, 1%, 1%. You would not have a conversation with me at all. I would be very defensive, somewhat aggressive in some certain ways, and I would always have to find my way. And that is that whole mental aspect of health what a lot of people forget. And I do believe that when I look back, and I look back right now, then only what happened around my waist is actually 10% of what I wanted to achieve, because the majority, 90% of my health which I've restored is actually right over here. It's really up in my mind in the way that I'm approaching life as it is right now.
I think later on in the podcast I'm going to ask you about being consistent and the importance of being consistent, because I mean you just told me you lost 40 kgs in 9 months.
10 months, yes.
That requires a dedication, consistency on a whole nother level. That is not something that you would expect from someone who weighed 145 kgs. So what was that fire inside you that made you make such a drastic change in such a short period of time? What kept you going?
There is an American ultra marathon Navy guy. His name is David Goggins.
Oh, I love David Goggins.
Yes. And David Goggins is one of those examples which is actually have a little bit similarities with me. At that time, he was not really well known the way that he is right now. And what he said has had a profound impact on me, aside from one mantra which I use a lot in my life, and is that humans they stop when they only approach around 40% of their total capacity. And that is it. And his story captivated me so much that I read his book probably 10 times. Mm-hmm. And in the end, when I was also browsing a little bit about what I wanted to do in my life, there was a quote from a Chinese philosopher called Lao Tzu, which is very famous, journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And connecting both together made me realize that, and of course when you start to reflect on what you've done before, and that those hospital bills are actually not needed based on the way that you are living, that was actually the change. You always have somebody to look for inspiration.
Yeah.
And for me, it's David Goggins.
Okay. So what about the health and wellness industry appeals to you, and why did you feel the need to, after you've accomplished your goals, to educate people on this topic?
It's actually a very good question. It's a question which I receive quite often, also from my clients. Is we believe that we sometimes have approached maximum performance. But if performance is set based on how you perceive yourself, then that is your benchmark. Then you know this is it. But life is changing, and life is not changing in an evolutionary way that the human body is, but in a revolutionary way. You know, we went from the industrialization probably 60, 70 years ago, and we came into the technology industry, and now it's, of course, there's a lot of social media where you can learn everything for free. And this is dominating our lives. We believe that we are productive through scrolling down. People call it, well, they can call it whatever they want. They call it relaxing, or they want to get engagement over there. But are we really productive? Are we really maximizing our capacity to thrive, to evolve through what we are offered right now? And you see, and there's so many studies around over there, and I'm much more of a science guy than I was before, is that people are no longer performing at their max simply because they are sucked into this little vortex that is social media, that is comfort, that is ease, that is not taking that extra step or that extra effort to assure that they can even perform better. Once you cross that threshold, which I call wellness, you can see actually your true capacity. Because we're living right now between sickness and wellness. We're not pivoting yet to that next phase, which is actually called fitness. And the whole society is pivoting right now between this whole sickness and wellness aspect of how we are living. And this actually, I have to quote, this is actually a CrossFit principle. And I firmly believe that when you look at the statistics, looking at the data, looking how people are behaving, I firmly believe that this is the way that we're actually living. We don't take that extra step because we believe we have reached our maximum capacity. And that has shifted back to David Goggins. Yeah. We're only reaching probably around 40% of our capacity. If you want to push yourself further, because we are constantly evolving, you and I are not the same person as we were yesterday. Yeah. You have to understand that life is evolving. You have to evolve. Otherwise, you're standing still. And what happens when you're standing still, you're always taking a step backwards.
How heavily do you think is external factors involved in taking the next step? Because very few people have the inner discipline and the inner motivation to set their mind to something and do it. Mm-hmm. I personally find there are very rare people who do that. Yeah. Do you need someone to be that first push? Do you think you need someone externally to come into your life and make you realize something before you actually do it? Because I think most people would need coaching or some form of help.
Yeah. The trigger, what a lot of people want when they feel that they need to change or they need to have that push, they wait for motivation. And we have found that clients from my side as well, they are looking for books, blog posts or videos which targeting motivation as the tool to step forwards. But we all know motivation is not a constant. And we always wait for that perfect moment to start. Like, for example, New Year's resolutions are one of those moments that everybody say, I'm going to change my life. Yeah? Yeah. Is that a motivational factor to start? Well, why is 90% of all the New Year's resolutions failing after 6 weeks? There's a lot of questions over there, and there's a lot of theories as well, and proven theories why people fail. Since we are living in a society where we can learn so much from the internet without having to pay somebody, we believe that is motivation enough. And if you look at the whole structure of how people are progressing and regressing, you will see that there's a lot of focus on that part. But it's not what makes the success. Now, I read a lot on a website called PubMed. And PubMed is a collection of all kinds of peer-reviewed science papers, also in relation to everything in relation to getting your goals met, because this is what it's going for. If you hire a coach or a trainer, the chances that you achieve your goal are by 300, increasing by 300%
Oh.
compared to when people are doing it on their own. That push can be a really good stepping stone, that first step before you reach that 1,000-mile journey. And I hope actually that those clients which I'm currently coaching and which we're working for at my current company, is that we would like them to go on their own pace as well in the end. Of course, it would be great if we gave them for a lifetime, but education is absolutely crucial in order to achieve those clients' goals. So you need that push from a coach. You need that push from, let's so-called tribe, your inner circle, which have that same passion for what you want to achieve. And that is what you really need to look for. Those people who are really pushing you and holding you accountable for your actions.
Okay. So, you know, that especially if you get someone involved, you have to build that trust, right, for a person who's kind of helping to guide you.
That's correct.
How can we find the truth about what is good and bad for your body, or get a better understanding of health and fitness when, you know, we have marketing experts online paying scientists and doctors to push their own personal agenda when it's promoting a product? You have these Instagram, you know, they're scrolling through the Instagram being like, shed your body within 9 weeks and get the body you've always wanted. How do we find the balance between what's real and achievable and, you know, what's a fantasy?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and I'm very glad that you asked this question. Whatever we see currently, and also the drive in how we are marketing health, fitness, good nutrition, wellness, you name it, it's all commercial. Most of those people who are marketing out of well, they basically do it on our own experiences. They have used a certain path. They say, hey, this works fantastic, but it only works fantastic for them. And of course, they can get anyone over there and just say, oh, this product is great. You have to use it as well. And that's the power of marketing. When you look at marketing a couple of years ago, you had very specific needs. It was still flyers. It was still newspapers. It was still magazines. Now you can walk here in the SkyTrain or the subway and suddenly somebody comes over with an ad in your face saying, buy this protein-rich milk, because it really,
Right. That's actually very true. You just be commuting to work and then you see, get the protein you don't get because you're working in an office all day, which might be for 80-90% on the people of the train.
Yeah, that is correct. And everything is related to making money. Is making money for you, well, for a company, it would, of course, would be great.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't give you the results which you need to achieve, then it's a waste of money. And for me, my hospital visits, my alternative medicine was actually all waste of money. Why? I did not look on my lifestyle. So in order to achieve what you want to achieve in health and fitness, it's not going to the gym once an hour and drink that protein-rich milk. Look how your lifestyle has been built. And that is where we usually start. And that's also where I start. If I see clients or I see people who believe that their lifestyle is working well, they just need a little bit of that nudge to lose 20 kilos in half a year. And but I look at their lifestyle because I do a lot of consultations before I really start to work with clients, is if that lifestyle is not fitting in with the mindset of the people and you're trying to, of course, talk with them and saying this is not working, then I can also say, sorry, you have to look for another alternative. But we are so indoctrinated by the amount of marketing media available and the knowledge these companies have, because these companies are not always very special nutritionists or movement specialists. They know how the mind is actually working and absorbing this information to assure that you buy their product. I have said this whole thing is for me also not really about actually making money. I just want to make sure that everybody deserves a healthier lifestyle. And that's why consultations for me are crucial. If I don't say I don't do a consultation, sorry, I don't know how to approach this person because everybody is unique. That protein milk may be working for somebody else, but it may not be working for another person. Lifestyle, knowledge of lifestyle is essential.
Can you explain to me a little bit about the Thrive approach?
Okay. I founded the Thrive approach in 2021. It's my own company. purely in debunking myths about nutrition, diets, exercise, sleep, performance, energy management. Simply, I had the chance to write really down why I wanted to have that pivot in my life. The Thrive approach is an holistic health coaching program I designed myself, in which I am doing one-on-one coaching, depending on the client's goal. That can be 4 weeks, that can be 3 months, by giving them the tools to live a sustainable health lifestyle without diet plans, without calorie counting, and even without a scale.
Okay.
And everything what I do is scientifically based on how I look at the client as a lifestyle. I've taken various courses, internationally acclaimed courses, to assure that my knowledge is up to par. But since there's so much data coming over there, I really have to keep up with those data. It's pure one-on-one coaching, so I don't do group coaching. And I also don't do online coaching where I have people coming over from all over the world and saying, okay, now I'm going to tell you what you need to eat and how you need to move. Because it's simply, for me, it doesn't work. I need to have that one-on-one, really personalized approach every day. Every day we're contacting and we're seeing what you're eating, what you're drinking, how you're moving, how your sleep is. And that is actually the whole process of what I'm said. So it's been right now in business, and in connection to this one, this whole approach has also led me to my new job as general manager for FitCore Asia, which is in the same process, corporate wellness, personal fitness training, and to assure that you live the thriving life you want to live.
How important is sleep in living not just a better life, but also getting the results you want for a person who's working out, who's eating well? What does the importance of sleep play?
In order to live, there are one thing what you actually need, and that's oxygen, right? We all need to breathe it. Number 2 is sleep. No question.
Because I mean, I think everybody has an opinion on sleeping. You know, some people act like they're too busy to sleep, or they work too hard for sleep. Some people can't get enough sleep because they're working too hard. But I think from all the research or things that I have learned as well is that sleeping properly can actually help you achieve your goals faster. For example, if you do want to lose weight and get in shape and you're working hard but you're not sleeping enough, those results will not be as effective if you did sleep.
Correct. There's no question about that. The science behind sleep has been evolving very, very rapidly, and there's still new studies coming out. There are actually studies, especially from university like Stanford University and Yale in the United States. There are immensely great studies coming out where how important sleep is for your overall health. It is not only that you're actually resting, but it's the whole cleansing of your whole body. Your brain is actually not a source of storing information. It's actually creating information and only storing those which is important. You know as well, when you go to a department store and you go to a car park and everybody's taking a picture of exactly where you are, where you parked the cars.
Yeah.
Your brain realizes that that is not important to remember. But if you have tonight is the 14th of February, so everybody will celebrate Valentine's Day. You want to have a great Valentine's Day, what will last forever. Your brain starts to realize, hey, this is something which I want to remember. Now, if you're overloading your brain with a lot of information and you don't give your brain the time to reflect, which is actually clean, which is actually called synaptic pruning, you're not waking up refreshed. So there is, of course, no real right and wrong in terms of how many hours of sleep, but science says 7 to 9 hours is actually the optimal way. It's weight loss. It is boosting your immune system. It is, of course, the whole brain section, which you're going to work through and just clean everything a single full up. Yeah. Repair. There's so many things which sleep does. And there's one thing if you don't touch, and that's don't touch my sleep. Really don't.
Can, can I ask you a question? This is a personal question.
Yeah.
Is there such thing as not being a morning person? Obviously, if you wake up in the morning and you work out, you get the endorphins, and most people, they get going. But like, is there such thing as waking up and just being slow in the morning? Because personally, I'm a person who wakes up in the morning, and it takes me at least an hour to kind of, find my bearings and get to the J that people normally know.
Yeah.
Is that real, or is that maybe perhaps because of my lifestyle?
It's possible. Um, there are people who are waking up very early, like me. I try to wake up every morning around 4:30, 5 o'clock. But I will
Proper
be
David
I will be
Goggins.
better also by 9:30.
Oh,
I
okay.
will be very consistent in that part. And there are people who are functioning extremely well when they go to bed at 12, 1 o'clock, and wake up at 8 and feeling refreshed and energized to attack the day. Looking from that perspective, and the way that we are evolving again, is that, the word midnight says already enough. It's the middle of the night. Now, if you look at the whole way that we are approaching the modern society, everybody wants to stay up as much as you want to. Like, I was a party animal, like there was no tomorrow. And sometimes I came home at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and at 7 o'clock I was already on the way to the office and just hammering emails away. But was I really productive? No, because I really did not know what actually my perfect energy was, where I was actually the most productive. And that takes experimentation. That takes a little bit trying to dare to take a different path. Trying to say, okay, I'm going back at 9 o'clock tonight. I'm trying to get up tomorrow at 5 o'clock in the morning. Does that work for me? Am I more energetic? And that's just a slow and short process. But there are enough people who are working, who are very productive at 11 and wake up at 7 o'clock, and that's fine. There is no ideal window for that one.
Do you ever feel like you miss out on events going to bed that early?
No, not at all, because I still can go to events whenever I want to. I only realize that for the coming days I have to catch up on this one.
Okay.
Events are as healthy as going to the gym, eating well, sleeping enough, because that is also how your hormones are actually working on this one. So if there's an event until 11 o'clock, sure, I'll be there. No worries.
Okay. Do you think waking up at 4:30 a.m. in the morning has benefited you in your life, and is that something that you would suggest people to try?
It has benefited me on an immense levels, to be honest. And I did not follow this early morning routine based on what basically the lot of successful people in the media see. You see a lot on the social medias and a lot of the newspapers saying, this person got success because he woke up at 5 o'clock every morning and this and this and that and that. If that is his routine, that is fine. And there are also very successful people who wake up later. For me, if I look and it's trial and error. But once I know I found a certain rhythm, I'm going to fine tune it even further. For me, waking up at that time, I can get things done, if I compare it to many years ago, is that I can get things done which I normally take 6 hours, now I do in 2 hours.
Oh, okay.
And if I set up my morning routine the way that I'm doing it right now, then I believe that I can even fine tune it even further. So that means for me, because I know that my energy is peaking between, let's say, 5 o'clock and 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to squeeze as much as I can into those hours so that I can be more productive, but also have more time at the end of the day. Because don't ask me to think about mathematical computations at 8 o'clock in the evening, because I'm simply not able to do so.
So you find yourself being a lot more efficient with your time and your work as well, because you know that you're giving yourself only a certain amount of time before you have to stop.
Not only that, it's also giving me the chance to see how far I can reach out. Can I extend it, for example, until 9 o'clock? How do I perform when I'm at 11 o'clock? Am I performing at the same level as I do, for example, at 5 o'clock?
Okay. All right. I want to go back to the topic of fitness and working out. How do calories normally work? I guess essentially it's burning off more than what you eat in a day, therefore you will start losing weight. Is it as simple as that?
No.
What?
No. What is a calorie?
The number behind the
A calorie is
Energy,
actually it's
measure of
energy.
energy,
It's
yeah.
energy. It's what we actually consume as what we use for fuel in our body. Now, a calorie and energy, of course, that is what is usually thin. But of course, there are many more sources of energy, or which our body can get energy from: sunlight, nature, breathing, sleep. Boost your energy levels. Again, another advantage of why sleep is so important, because it boosts your energy levels. A calorie is actually an invention. It's allow us to give what we're actually eating a certain amount of calories. And you can also see it all on all the labels.
Yeah.
But in order to achieve those numbers, you have to go to very expensive laboratories where food is being vacuumed or being processed in a certain way that they actually can decipher how many calories it is. Once it goes into your body, you believe that you're having, for example, 200 calories. Yeah, can be anything. Depending on how you are rested, perhaps you're exercised a lot, perhaps you feel very lethargic, you're right on the couch just flicking through Netflix, or you're just walking along the street and basically there's a gap in between your last meal, the next snack, and another snack, and then of course dinner is coming up. Your body starts to take that food in, but processes the way that it feels it needs to be processed. So what you feel is actually 200 calories. Your body says, I'm going to do whatever I want to based on how I feel, on whatever reasons that is, and just say, okay, I'm going to do that. But calories are actually not calories. And that sounds very much contradictory, because it is true. 100 calories of carrot compared to 100 calories of sugar is uncomparable.
Yeah.
And why is it? Because carrots come up with other valuable nutrients, micronutrients, vitamins and minerals that sugar doesn't have. So your body gets a lot more energy and much more beneficial material from 100 calories of carrots rather than from 100 calories of sugar. And depending on your goal, perhaps 100%, 100 calories of sugar may be working for you very, very well. And for another, maybe 100 calories of carrots.
It definitely tastes better, I'm sure, as well.
And it's all in your DNA. We can't deny it over there. Calorie counting, therefore, when you look at it, and of course I have one of those beautiful watches as well where I can see how many calories are burned.
Yeah.
But science is confirming that between 20 to 50% of what you believe are actually taking in, it's wrong. Wow. So you're actually either increasing or decreasing between 20 to 50% calories, more or less. So that's the reason why calories counting doesn't really work. It really depends also how your mental state is and how you see calories.
When you explain it in such a way, it makes a lot of logical sense.
Thank you.
I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it also makes me realize that I'm not the only one, and there is a lack of education around this topic.
That's correct.
Because it might be marketing, TV. I've believed this for the longest time. And yeah, it's only now that if you seek for the education, you will find it. But how do we get people to this information?
Yeah. It's a very good question. You can contact me, of course, but that's a whole different story.
All right,
it's like David and Goliath. You know, David is the very big person who's taking everything over, and that's the only one you can see. And basically, Goliath is the big one. David is the small one. And you have to look for the small one, and he's basically sometimes the one who can conquer.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to look beyond your field of what you feel is actually comfortable, and look for a different approach. And that's also the reason why I reached out to why I founded the Thrive approach. I just want to get rid of all this absolutely nonsense. And there are a lot of scientists who actually back up what we're actually saying here as well. Calories are, that's why I don't count calories.
Okay.
That's why I don't do it. And it's just, I do a lot of seminars as well. So in case you want to do it, It's all for free.
Okay.
So we can give you...
I saw your recent seminar.
Yes, there will be one on the 25th of February.
So staying on the topic of the best approach, what diet is the best diet? You know, does intermittent fasting really work? Is keto the way? Should everyone be a vegan? What do we do?
How many diets are there?
The most famous, I would say, is fasting and keto, right?
Yeah. Well, fasting is actually not a diet, but I understand. I understand that the whole broader concept as well. If you put all diets in a big line next to each other, all diets have one thing in common, and that is something that this diet plan says: this you cannot or have to eat or drink in moderation.
They're all built to make you feel miserable in some way.
That is true.
Yeah.
When you look at all those diet plans together and you see that they all focus on, this one says have to eat less carbs. There are diet plans that say please reduce your fat intake. Or, there is also, of course, in Ireland, there is so-called the Guinness diet. So drink Guinness as much as you can.
I like that one.
Yeah, now there's a lot of people over there.
Yeah.
Vegan says please only plant, no food. Pescatarian, where they eat more fish. There are paleo diets, which basically is a diet going back towards how we were before. There are diets that said, okay, you have to eat 50% fruits. But there is always something that's on that common denominator and it says, you cannot eat or limit this. Now, once you put that all together, you cannot eat anything. So people start to say this diet, they try it for 30 days and they said, oh yeah, it's not working. I go to another one and I go to another one. But it's actually eliminating constantly something out of a diet. So what happens is that if you look at all the things together, you cannot eat anything anymore. Make it sense?
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense. You have to basically stop eating,
diet.
liquid diet and go to that Guinness diet or something like that. This is the danger with diets as well. Because people are going to associate certain foods as bad. In my language, there is no bad food. I'm still eating pizza. My clients also eat hamburgers. They still drink beer. Because the principles of a good diet are ingrained into our DNA, which we have actually been involved for tens of thousands of years. So if you understand that principle of how our body works, and it's actually only one thing, and that is actually controlling the right hormones. If you understand how your hormones are working and how they are working to gain weight, lose weight, become more muscular, sleep better, you're already having probably around 70-80% of the solution for weight gain or weight loss already in your hand. And that's where I'm focusing on. So for me, there is no real diet. There is no best diet. Because if you put all the diet plans together, they all say, don't eat this, don't drink that, eat this only at a certain time.
Yeah. That's the thing with time. So for me personally, I've tried the intermittent fasting. I think that came to me. It was fairly easy to understand. Okay, you limit yourself to certain hours. Whatever. And I always skipped breakfast. And this is something I've always been told as well, that you should never skip breakfast. In general, that's a saying. But also, in people like my father in my life has always shed importance on breakfast.
Yeah.
So is it important, do you think, it to have a good breakfast and start your day, or is that a more traditional way of thinking?
You know what the slogan is? Breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
Yeah.
Do you know where it comes from?
I have no idea. I just feel like it's a thing people say.
It's actually Kellogg's cornflakes who came up with this slogan when they're coming up with their product.
Cornflakes.
Yeah, it was the cornflakes.
Wow.
So they basically said breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And it's been so ingrained into society. Breakfast, if you look at the name break the fast, you're actually not eating for 7 to 9 hours unless you, of course, you have a proper night's sleep.
Yeah.
It makes sense that you're breaking the fast. And that is the whole concept that Kellogg's cornflakes actually put this into play and saying, we're going to use it. Why? Commercial reasons. They feel that they have a right product for breaking the fast breakfast and say, let's put the cornflakes in over there.
Marketing.
Smart marketing.
I just thought it was a thing that people say.
Look it up.
You don't even really question it, do you?
No, you just think it's okay.
Yeah, it makes
It's
sense.
a fact.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just the way it is.
All right. All right. So let's say, okay, whatever diets people are on, they've started living more healthy, they want to get well. I think the biggest problem that most people will face is consistency and dedication to a cause. How can we then be consistent with the change that we make? Is consistency and a sustainable approach the key to finding success?
Absolutely. 100%. No questions asked about this one. When people are starting to go for a diet, what they want to do, they usually have a so-called short-term goal. You know, they want to fit into that dress they wore 10 years ago because they simply couldn't do it anymore and they have an important event going on. And in probably around more than 90% of the cases, people drop after they had their wedding dress on, and they just put it back over there and they said, okay, I don't want to wear it anymore. And that's the danger as well with diets. You go from an extreme way of basically your benchmark, this is the way you're living, and you're cutting so many things out of your life, right? Your body is not able to handle this one. The chances that you rebound back to normal are actually extremely great. If you're trying to be consistent on a diet, be it paleo, be it keto, be it whatever diet you want to achieve, what will happen is you're getting extremely bored, but you're also getting an aversion towards certain types of food because you're starting to label it as bad. And as I said, in my vocabulary, there is no bad food because food is also cultural. If people are from, let's say, India and they need their curries, do I restrict them from not eating curries simply because they need to lose weight? Because social health is just as crucial as your whole body health. So for me, that is actually totally off the table. But there are certain principles, again, in terms of hormone control. And there are certain triggers and anchors in your life that make you want to eat, or once you make you drink, or makes you want to sleep better. And we recognize those anchors. And that means that if you recognize those anchors and you start to make it as a habit, you start to build on top of those ones. Because success lies in those 1% incremental changes. It doesn't go with immediately dropping 20% of your habits down. This is not the way that things are going to work. The same if you're going to work on a mathematical problem or you're becoming an Excel expert. You're not able to go into very complicated things on the next day. It takes time to get certain processes in place without having to think about it. That's why we call it the habit stacking. So for me, building habits about certain aspects of food, drink, exercise, by just only making that 1% change leads to success. There's a great book. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And it clearly shows you why 1% changes every single day work better. It makes it more consistent because you don't have to do that very big leap at once. So that is why we are looking at consistency as the crucial factor. And it doesn't really matter what kind of diet you're doing. As long as you do it consistently, there's no problem. You'll see the results.
Yeah. But I think definitely what you said makes sense. But I think people do find it difficult to be consistent. And I guess that's where motivation comes into play. We were talking earlier about, New Year's resolutions and and most of them fail within the first 6 weeks.
Yeah, we haven't reached the 6 week mark right over now. So
why do you think it is that, what are the common reasons that people fail? Is it because it's unrealistic, or maybe because just a lack of commitment?
No, it's very a moment thing. People looking at the goal. People think that this is what I want to achieve. I'm going for it. But the goal is actually not important. It's the way how to go to that goal is actually important. Every single step what you take in order to achieve that goal is actually more and more important than actually that goal. Because however you look at it, the goal will always be there. You have something in mind and you feel this is what I want to achieve. But how to get there is a total different story. And you know as well that once we are in life and life things are happening and we don't have a clear why we want to achieve it, and that's what a lot of research is also showing in New Year's resolutions and saying they have no clear why. Is it because of New Year's resolution, so I have to do something for the next year? But they have no clear why they want to achieve it. It's also a very easy and relaxing period. You know, people still have a free day, some time off. They know in a week's time after the 1st of January said, I can do whatever I want because I don't have to work yet. Once normal life starts to kick in, people are having a hard time to keep it up.
Yeah.
And of course, and probably around 60-70% of the New Year's resolutions are connected to health. And people are inundated by information when they look about it and said, oh, can I do this or can I do that? And again, they don't know why they want to do it. They have no goal. They have no clear path how to reach out this one. You know, normal life starts to kick in. And of course, then the next holiday comes up and everything what they wanted to do before, like for example with Chinese New Year, goes down the drain because nobody wants to diet when they are on the beach with a pina colada in their hand. And no, they don't want that.
I wanted to go and collect like a statistics of how many people actually sign up for the gym in the new year in January, like a year-long membership and then quit maybe 2 or 3 months away.
It's in Thailand currently it's 75%.
Really?
First 3 weeks.
Wow.
And that's where the commercial gyms make a lot of money.
75%.
Yes. Without a coach.
Okay. So
Are you one of them?
no, not yet. I'm at the stage where I haven't even subscribed yet. No, but is it because having a coach motivates you not only personally, but also you don't want to let that coach down because, you know, you create bonds and that trust and respect with the coach? Or is it because they've spent the money and they don't want to lose value for that?
For me, their goal is my goal. How to get there is for me to decide together with them because it's absolutely very much teamwork.
Okay.
In 99% of the cases, be it as a personal fitness trainer or as a nutrition coach or as a sleep coach, 99% of the clients feel that there is always somebody watching over their shoulder because we have a check-in system that people need to check in to see whether they have completed some certain tasks. If they don't do it, we'll be knocking on their door. And this is the whole different aspect of what you're doing with other gyms and other, you know, you go over there for an hour, you work out, you go back, but nobody's actually checking what you're doing afterwards. Because what you do in 1 hour in the gym, you can easily destroy within the other 23 hours when you're not in the gym. Because if you don't hold yourself accountable for the actions taken to achieve that health goal, then you're wasting your money. That's why finding this circle of influence and accountability, which I call CIA, and it's not the American one, but it's just an easy abbreviation for what it's learned, is that people around you who have similar goals, similar mindsets, but also are able to push you and hold yourself accountable for what you want to achieve, is by far greater than going on your own. And that's why those statistics really show, you know, and most of the clients which we're achieving, and they achieve it because I'm knocking on their door. Because if I don't deliver, then I fail. And that's something which I don't need. That's how I don't want to.
I can imagine you just showing up like, you better do it or I will show up.
Some people are getting really sick of me and saying, oh, there's another WhatsApp from Niels because he doesn't do.
But people need that.
People need that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Otherwise, they stick with their mobile telephone for another 6 hours doing absolutely nothing productive. They don't perform the way that they want to. They don't achieve the goal. And why? Because the mobile telephone is always there. And this is the most dangerous thing of this time. And I'm sorry to say it, but I try to limit even my own social media as much as I can. And
the satisfaction always comes near the end because they might hate you for that time, but once they get the results, they're like, oh, Neil was right.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, fine.
Yeah,
he
true.
knows what he's talking about.
I said, okay, let's go another month with me. And no, it's absolutely true. You know, you start to feel better and you start to see the results, but you really have to be pushing people hard to achieve their goal. It's maybe not feeling that they feel that, oh, he's on my back again. But, you know, you want it. Let me help you. Let me guide you. Let me give you the tools that outside of that 1 hour in the gym or on the telephone or on a Zoom call, this is also where the actual results come from. Because I cannot hold your hand 24 hours a day. That's impossible. But I can be there knocking on your door, say, have you done it? Show me it. And I can be very tough on that one.
Is it important to have the right goal? I'll give you an example. One of my favorite people to watch online is a person called Simon Sinek, and
Yeah,
and
I know him very well.
and he did a podcast with Stephen Bartlett, who's one of my favorite YouTubers, and he went on the podcast and he talked about the quality of goals. As in, for example, let's say we're doing a podcast right now. If my goal is to reach number one, and for a year to 2 years to 3 years, my only aim is to reach that one, and once I reach that one, I guess I'll be satisfied. But then you have to keep remaining at one and expect no one else to take over. And if somebody does, then you fall into depression, because the only thing validating your success is that aim to reach number one.
Correct.
So my question is how important it is to have the right goal. And do you find that sometimes you have to be honest with your clients and tell them that, hey, maybe this is not the right way of going on about it?
It's great that you mentioned Simon Sinek. I previously already mentioned why you want to do something. He has a great book called Start With Why.
Yes.
Yeah, and Simon Sinek is bringing that over. In case who don't know Simon Sinek, really recommend reading Start With Why as one of his better books. Goals can change. We live in a society where we're humans anyway, that we sometimes feel that we need to achieve something right now in 6 months, 1 year ago. But a goal, if you reach a goal, are you satisfied? Are you happy that you achieved that number one status and say, okay, I'm going to sit back and enjoy that number one position? Somebody else can also knock on your door and say, hey, I see now that, for example, the Thaiger is number one on certain aspects of the SEO. And then suddenly another company says, okay, I'm going to take him over. And if you don't do anything and you just sit over there and suddenly become number one and you go to number two because you're not paying attention to what you're doing, have you achieved that goal? You have achieved that goal temporarily, but you want to get better and better and better and evolve and change and to ensure that you stay that number one position. If you feel that number one position is not really important anymore because, let's just say, you want to go into the e-commerce space or you want to go into the retail, online retail, whatever it is that goal to become number one in that where you are currently right now, is that important? Maybe not, because you want to switch your goals. So what we usually do as well with my clients is also saying, are you happy still with your goal? Is it something that you want to develop further, or have your goal has changed? And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong to assess your goal. Things change. You can become a family man and suddenly that number one position is not really important, but then taking care of your family becomes your new goal. Then that is your new goal as well. So yeah, reassessing your goals and whether you're still on track to achieve that goal is absolutely crucial. And don't be afraid to make changes.
Yeah. Have you ever been in a situation where, you're working with a client and you're finding it difficult to get through to them, and halfway through you're thinking to yourself that I should just give up on this client or have given up on some clients because no matter what you do, you can't get through to them?
And that's the challenging part from our job as coaches, because there is always a third door to get through to that one. And that's what you learn when you're becoming a coach, is how to approach clients, how to assess situation. Maybe it's not go through a very difficult time, and you can ask very specific questions to ensure that you understand the client's motivation, why he or she is not really getting that drive through. But I never give up on clients.
Okay.
Never.
What are some myths or false facts about health and nutrition that perhaps enrage you, or rather something that you want to fix and educate people on?
Oh gosh.
Here we go. Get a list. Get a list of.
No, I don't. I don't want to go through all of them, but
Let's say one or two. Your top one or two.
carbs are bad for you.
Okay.
Or going to 7 days a week to the gym is what gets your six pack up and running.
Okay.
Absolutely and utterly miss. It's not true.
Carbs are not bad for you.
In my language, in language also that we were perceiving the philosophy, what we're doing with our coaching and what we're doing as a GM and also steering my team at Aspire is that there is no bad foods. If you're if your life, if you have an history with family dinners where pizza is on the menu, that's health as well. So why should you eliminate pizza?
Is it about moderation?
It's all about understanding how you're going to manipulate your hormones. Moderation is one thing, yes, but also really understanding how things work in your body. When you're eating something, when you're drinking something, when you're moving, when you're exercising very actively, how to fuel accurately. That is where a lot of people are having the conception of how things are actually working to achieve weight loss, weight gain, muscle mass, running a 21K half marathon. It's that misconception. Why? Because we are so commercially driven in this industry, be it food, be it nutrition, be it diet plans, and it's not goal orientated. It's just getting more money in. And that's a whole different story, but I'm not going to talk about it. But we can go over that on a cup of coffee.
All right. Niels, we're coming to near the end of the podcast. I always like to end the podcast by asking the guest a final advice or question related to your field. So today I'd like to ask you, what would you say to that person watching, or to a person watching right now, who is either hesitant or reluctant to take the next step to make that trip towards a healthier, a happier, and a life full of wellness?
I almost want to quote again Simon Sinek. Start with why. Why do you want to change? If you have your why in place, can be for any reason. It took me probably around 9 months to decide why I needed to change. Have that on your mirror, on the toilet, in the shower, in the kitchen when you're cooking your own meals. Please delete all those food apps. Yeah, that's okay. That's my story. Why do you want to change? If you know that and it's ingrained every single day, wherever you go, and look at it, why do you think what you need to achieve? You're already 50% on the right track. But get that coach. Without a coach, I would not have achieved who I am right now. And I'm still being coached, even though I'm a coach myself. All of us, all coaches, still have their own coaches. Because we're constantly learning and we constantly need to be held accountable for what we want to achieve. And that is also one thing which is, for me, the 2023 word is accountability. Hold yourself accountable for what you want to achieve, as long as it's connected to your why.
All right. Niels, thank you very much for
Thank you.
coming on the show. I thoroughly enjoyed and learned a lot in our chat today. And thank you for making the time to come
Thank
on
you
the
so
show.
much for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
You're most welcome.